He wasn't violent. He wasn't broken. He was grieving, and no one powerful cared until I did. Welcome to Reality Untold Stories. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you watching from. Section 1. The beginning 1,000 words. Let me tell you about the day I met a little boy who changed everything. My name is Grace. I clean offices in downtown Chicago. The kind of glass towers where people wear shoes that cost more than my monthly rent. I start at 5 a.m., finish by noon, then head to my second job at a daycare center. I smell like pine cleaner and baby wipes most days, and I'm not ashamed of that. I grew up on the South Side, raised by a single mom who worked 3 jobs and still made sure I got to community college. I studied early childhood development at night school while everyone else I knew was sleeping or partying. Nobody expects the cleaning lady to have a degree. That's their mistake, not mine. It was a Tuesday morning when everything shifted. I was mopping the 40th floor of the Sterling Tower, home to the Harrington family. Real estate empire, old money, the kind of wealth that builds hospitals and names them after dead relatives. I heard crying, not the normal baby fussing. This was different, desperate, like a fire alarm that wouldn't stop. Then I heard the crash. I dropped my mop and followed the sound of the nursery. A woman in a cream suit was backing away from a playpen, holding her bleeding hand. A little boy, maybe 2 years old, was standing in the corner, shaking, his face red and wet with tears. Toys were scattered everywhere like a tornado had hit. "He bit me," the woman shrieked. "That's the 6th nanny this month. I'm done." She stormed past me, and I heard her tell someone on her phone that the child was unmanageable and probably needs medication. The little boy, Jamie, stood there trembling. Not angry. Scared. I've seen that look before in the kids at my daycare whose parents were going through divorces or who'd witnessed violence. That's not a bad kid. That's a terrified kid. I should have walked away. I was the cleaning lady. Not my business. But something in my chest wouldn't let me leave him like that. I sat down on the floor, not too close, and just started humming. Nothing fancy, just a tune my mom used to hum when I couldn't sleep. I didn't look at him directly. I picked up a toy car, rolled it gently across the carpet. After 5 minutes, Jamie took 3 small steps closer. After 10, he sat down near me, not touching, just near. That's when a man appeared in the doorway. Tall, exhausted, suit wrinkled like he'd been wearing it for 2 days straight. His eyes had that hollow look people get when they've forgotten what rest feels like. "You're the cleaning woman," he said. Not a question. "Grace," I said. "And yes, I'm David. David Harrington. This is my son, Jamie." His voice cracked on the word son. "His mother, my wife, she passed away 8 months ago. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. He won't let anyone near him. 6 nannies have quit. My family thinks I'm failing him." Jamie was now holding the toy car I'd been rolling. His breathing had slowed. "Can I try something?" I asked. David looked at me like a drowning man looks at a rope. "Please." Behind him, I saw 2 women enter. One older, silver hair pulled tight, wearing pearls that probably cost more than my car. The other younger, sharp suit, sharper eyes. They looked at me the way you look at something stuck to your shoe. "David, who is this?" the older woman said, her voice like ice wrapped in velvet. "Mother, this is Grace. She's the cleaning woman." "I can see that." "David, we need to discuss private family matters. Perhaps she could return to her duties." The younger woman, who I later learned was David's sister Catherine, smiled at me. The kind of smile that has teeth. "I'm sure you're very good at what you do. But childcare requires expertise, education, references." I kept my voice level. "I have an associate degree in early childhood development from Harold Washington College. For years working in pediatric behavioral support. And right now, your nephew is calm for the first time today." They all looked at Jamie. He was sitting quietly, running the car along the carpet edge, his face peaceful. The older woman, Vivian Harrington, narrowed her eyes. 1 hour. If he's still calm, we'll discuss this. If not, you leave and never mention this conversation to anyone. Our family has a reputation. I nodded. 1 hour. I didn't know it then, but that hour was the beginning of a war I didn't choose but couldn't walk away from. That first week felt like walking through a beautiful house full of hidden traps. On the surface, everything looked perfect. The Harrington penthouse had marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, and a nursery that looked like something from a magazine. But underneath? Underneath was poison dressed up as concern. Jamie responded to me. Really responded. The first morning, I changed his routine. Instead of the rigid schedule the previous nannies had tried to force, I watched him. When he got agitated, I dimmed the lights. When he seemed overwhelmed, I gave him space. When he reached for me, I held him. By day 3, he was eating full meals, sleeping through naps, laughing. Actually laughing, this beautiful bubbling sound that David said he hadn't heard in months. But Vivian and Catherine weren't celebrating. They were circling. It started small. Catherine would forget to tell me that Jamie's schedule had changed, then scold me in front of David for missing a doctor's appointment I didn't know about. Vivian would rearrange the nursery overnight, moving Jamie's comfort items, then act concerned that he was regressing when he got upset the next morning. The day of the peanut incident I'll never forget. I was giving Jamie his afternoon snack, apple slices with almond butter, something Dr. Pierce, the pediatrician, had approved. Catherine swept into the room like a hurricane in heels. Stop. What are you doing? Jamie is severely allergic to nuts. You could have killed him. I froze. My hands went cold. David came running, his face white. But I remembered something. I walked to the fridge, pulled down the medical binder Dr. Pierce had given us. Allergies, shellfish, strawberries. Nothing about nuts. I'd read that binder 10 times. Dr. Pierce's notes say, I started. Notes can be outdated. Catherine snapped. Are you really going to risk a child's life because of your stubbornness? David looked between us, confused and scared. Dr. Pierce was called. He arrived within the hour, reviewed his records, and confirmed. No nut allergy. Never had been. Catherine didn't apologize. She just said, better safe than sorry, and walked out. But the worst came on day 5. I was putting Jamie down for his nap when I saw something under his blanket. A prescription bottle. With my name on it. My full name, Grace Mitchell, printed on the pharmacy label. The bottle was glued shut, impossible to open without breaking the seal, but anyone looking at it would see my name and pills next to a child's bed. My heart stopped. I knew exactly what this was. A setup. Catherine was in the hallway, scrolling on her phone, too casual, too perfectly positioned to discover what she'd planted. I pulled out my phone and started recording. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. Today is Thursday, September 14th, 3:17 p.m. I'm documenting that I found a sealed prescription bottle with my name on it placed under Jamie's blanket. I did not put this here. I'm opening it now to verify contents. I broke the seal on camera. Inside were antihistamines. Nothing dangerous, but that wasn't the point. The point was to make me look negligent, careless, dangerous. Catherine noticed me holding the bottle. What is that? Are those your medications near the baby? My God, Grace, that's incredibly irresponsible. I held up my phone, still recording. I found this bottle sealed and placed under Jamie's blanket. I'm documenting it on camera with timestamps. If you'd like to see the footage, I'm happy to show it. Her face went blank for just a second. Then the mask came back. You're becoming paranoid. Perhaps the stress of this position is too much for you. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment in Pilsen and cried into my hands. Then I called the one person I knew could help me, Professor Raymond Cole, my old teacher from college, the man who'd told me, documentation isn't paranoia, it's survival. I told him everything. The schedule changes, the false allergy claim, the planted bottle. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he said words that changed everything. Grace, they're building a case. Not against you, primarily. Against David. They want to declare him an unfit parent so they can take control of Jamie and, more importantly, control the family trust. You're just collateral damage. The disposable villain in their story. I felt my blood run cold. What do? You keep documenting everything. Every conversation. Every incident. Every witness. And you let me make some calls. We're going to need a paper trail they can't burn. That's when I stopped being just a nanny. That's when I became a fighter. Professor Cole arrived at my apartment 2 days later with a folder that felt heavy in a way that had nothing to do with paper weight. "Grace," he said, sitting at my tiny kitchen table, "you need to see what we're dealing with." He spread out documents like he was laying out evidence at a trial. Because that's exactly what this was becoming. First document, emails. Catherine Harrington to a private investigator, requesting background checks on caregivers who form inappropriate attachments to the child, with a note that said, "We need something we can use." There were 3 other nannies' names listed. Women who'd bonded with Jamie, women who'd been fired suddenly. Second document, financial records. Catherine had gambling debts totaling $340,000. She'd borrowed money from the family trust 3 times in 2 years, always with promises to pay it back, never following through. Third document, and this one made my stomach turn, a loan application from a private bank. The borrower listed was Catherine Harrington. The cosigner? Jamie Harrington, a 2-year-old child. His social security number was there, clear as day, on a $500,000 loan application. "That's identity theft," I whispered. "That's desperation," Professor Cole corrected. "And desperate people do dangerous things." The final document was the worst, a draft legal petition, professionally written, requesting an emergency hearing to determine David Harrington's fitness as a parent. The language was careful, clinical, devastating. It painted David as depressed, neglectful, unable to provide stable care, cycling through caregivers, putting his child at risk. Every lie was half-wrapped in truth. Yes, David was grieving. Yes, there had been multiple nannies. But the petition twisted those facts into a narrative of incompetence. At the bottom, in smaller text, petitioners request temporary guardianship be granted to Vivian Harrington and Catherine Harrington, with full access to the trust established for the minor child's care. There it was. The money. The control. Jamie wasn't a grandson to them. He was a key to a vault. "They're going to move on this soon," Professor Cole said. "Catherine's creditors are circling. She needs access to that trust, and the only way to get it is to remove David." "What do?" I asked. "We get ahead of them. We document everything you've experienced, we bring in Dr. Pierce as a witness, and we present this evidence before they can file their petition." "But Grace..." He looked at me seriously. "This is going to get ugly. They will come after you. Your credibility, your background, your motives. Are you ready for that?" I thought about Jamie. The way he'd started smiling again. The way he'd called me Gigi because he couldn't quite say Grace yet. The way David had started standing up straighter, speaking with more confidence, playing with his son instead of hovering anxiously. "I'm ready," I said. The confrontation was set for the following Tuesday at Harrington and Associates, the law firm where Vivian's name was literally on the building. Neutral ground, they called it, which was like calling a lion's den neutral ground for a rabbit. The conference room could have fit my entire apartment inside it. Windows overlooking the Chicago River, a table so polished you could see your reflection, leather chairs that probably cost more than my college tuition. Vivian sat at the head like a queen. Catherine beside her, perfectly composed. Dr. Adrian Wells, a child psychologist I'd never met, sat across from them with a leather portfolio. David sat at the opposite end, looking like he was trying not to disappear into his suit. I took a chair near the door, where people like me usually sit. Dr. Wells spoke first. "Based on my observations and family reports, I'm recommending an immediate transition away from the current caregiver and a formal evaluation of Mr. Harrington's parenting capacity." "Observations?" I asked. "You met Jamie once, for 20 minutes, and you didn't even speak to him. You watched through a doorway while I read him a book." Dr. Wells gave me a tight smile. I don't need to interact with a child to assess environmental factors and attachment dynamics. I place my phone on the table. Then you won't mind if we record this conversation for Jamie's medical records. Vivian's eyes flashed. That won't be necessary. Dr. Pierce, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, spoke up. Actually, yes. For continuity of care, we should document all recommendations. I support recording this. That's when the door opened and Professor Cole walked in carrying his messenger bag like he owned the room. My apologies for being late, he said calmly. I had to print some additional documentation. Shall we begin? Professor Cole didn't sit down. He stood at the end of that massive conference table and opened his bag like he was opening a case file in court. Let's start with Dr. Wells, he said, his voice calm and even. Doctor, could you tell us when you first evaluated Jamie Harrington? Dr. Wells shifted in his chair. Last Thursday, as documented. And when did you draft your recommendation letter? Friday morning, naturally, after reviewing. Professor Cole slid a paper across the table. This is your recommendation letter, as submitted to the family. Metadata shows it was created Wednesday evening, a full day before you met Jamie. The room went quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The kind where everyone stops breathing. Dr. Wells' face went red. I must have used a template. Here's an email from Catherine Harrington to you, dated 3 weeks ago. Another paper slid across the table. She writes, we need professional documentation that the current caregiver is inappropriate and that David needs supervision. In exchange, the Family Foundation would be pleased to make a substantial donation to your clinic. Does that refresh your memory? Vivian stood up. These documents are illegally obtained. These documents were provided by a licensed private investigator responding to concerns about child welfare, Professor Cole said calmly. Completely legal. Would you like to see the others? He didn't wait for an answer. Catherine Harrington. 3 loan applications using Jamie's social security number without legal authority. Total borrowed, $680,000. Current gambling debts across 4 casinos, $340,000. 2 creditors threatening legal action. Catherine's face went white, then red. How dare you invade my privacy? Jamie's privacy, Professor Cole corrected. His identity. His social security number. Unless you're claiming a 2-year-old applied for those loans himself. David was staring at his sister like he'd never seen her before. Kathy, you used Jamie's information? She didn't answer. She just looked at her mother. Professor Cole continued. Vivian Harrington. Draft petition to declare David unfit, prepared 6 weeks ago by Harrington and Associates, specifically requesting that guardianship be transferred to you and Catherine, with full financial oversight of Jamie's trust fund. A trust currently valued at $12 million. That petition was precautionary, Vivian said coldly. Given David's obvious struggles. Given your need to access funds you couldn't legally touch otherwise, Professor Cole interrupted. And let's discuss the pattern. In the past 3 months, you've cycled through 6 caregivers. But here's what's interesting. He pulled out another document. I tracked them down. All 6. Every single one who successfully bonded with Jamie was terminated within 2 weeks. The 3 who struggled with him lasted longer. Why? Because Jamie doing well meant David doing well, and David doing well meant you couldn't claim he was unfit. I watched David's face as understanding crashed over him like a wave. His own mother. His own sister. Dr. Pierce stood up then, holding his tablet. I'd like to add something to the record. Jamie's sleep patterns have improved 70% since Grace began working with him. His aggression has decreased by 85%. His verbal engagement is up. His appetite is normalized. In my medical opinion, removing Grace would be actively harmful to this child's development. She's manipulated all of you. Vivian's voice cracked for the first time, losing that icy control. A cleaning woman with a community college degree, and you're treating her like an expert. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice wasn't. Everything I heard today, I've been documenting for a month. Every scheduled change, every planted bottle, every lie told in front of that little boy. You kept him on a carousel of caregivers and called it standards. You used him as leverage for money and called it concern. And you tried to make me the villain because villains are easy to fire, easy to blame, easy to forget. I looked at David. Your son needs you. Not their control. Not their money. Not their approval. Just you. And I think you know that now. Dr. Wells stood up quickly. I need to leave. You're free to go, Professor Cole said. You're also free to answer questions from the state licensing board about why you drafted recommendations before examining your patient. I filed the complaint this morning. Wells left fast. Catherine followed, grabbing her bag, not looking at anyone. Vivian stood there, her pearls catching the light from the windows, her face a mask of fury and something else. Something that looked almost like shame. David, she said finally, you're making a terrible mistake. David looked at his mother, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. No, Mother. I'm finally correcting one. She left without another word. The aftermath didn't happen overnight. Healing never does. David removed his mother from the family trust board the following week. Vivian didn't fight it publicly, but she made sure everyone in their social circle knew her version of events, that her son was being manipulated, that she'd been trying to protect her grandson, that she'd been betrayed by her own family. Some people believed her. Old money circles tend to protect their own. But David didn't care anymore. I watched him change over those next months, like someone waking up from a long, exhausting dream. He started saying no to his mother's phone calls. He stopped apologizing for decisions he had every right to make. He learned to sit on the floor and play cards with Jamie without his phone in his hand. Catherine entered a treatment program for gambling addiction. She lasted 3 weeks before checking herself out. Last I heard, she'd moved to Arizona and was working in real estate. We don't mention her name around Jamie. Dr. Wells resigned from 2 professional boards before the investigation could go public. The clinic that bore his name quietly removed him as director. These things happen in whispers when you have the right lawyers. But the house changed. Not into some perfect fairy tale where everything's sunshine and laughter. Real life doesn't work that way. It changed into a home. David learned to make breakfast without the housekeeper. Burned the toast twice, made pancakes that looked like continents, but Jamie ate every bite because his dad made them. They started a routine: breakfast, playtime, park walks in the afternoon. Simple things. Things that don't cost anything but mean everything. Jamie grew. Not just bigger, but brighter. He learned to say full sentences. He learned to put his toys away. He learned to say, I'm sad, instead of hitting. He learned to trust that the people around him weren't going to disappear. One Saturday morning, about 6 months after everything happened, Jamie ran across the living room in socks that finally fit him right, slipped, laughed that beautiful laugh, got back up and tried again. David clapped like he'd just witnessed a miracle. In the corner, in a chair by the window, Vivian sat reading Jamie a story about trucks. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. When she finished, she looked up at me. Thank you, Grace, she said. Just that. But she meant it. I could tell. People ask me sometimes if I regret how hard I pushed in that meeting. If recording professionals, exposing family secrets, bringing in lawyers and investigators crossed a line. I think about that bottle with my name on it. I think about Jamie's breathing slowing down against my shoulder. I think about David finding his own voice after years of being told he was too emotional, too weak, too broken. Do I regret it? No. Would you? David offered me a real position with a real title, Director of Early Childhood Development for the Harrington household. The salary had enough zeros that I had to count them twice. I said yes, then went home and cried until I had no tears left. But I didn't keep that gift to myself. I couldn't. I started something small just to fund it first. For women like my mom, women working night shifts while studying for certification exams. Women choosing between rent and textbooks. Women who know what they're capable of, but never get the chance to prove it. Professor Cole helped me set it up right. We called it the Grace Initiative, which made me uncomfortable, but he insisted. We give small grants, $500 to $2,000, for women pursuing early childhood education. No essays about overcoming adversity. No inspiring stories required. Just proof of enrollment and proof of need. Last year, we funded 23 women. This year, we're on track for 40. I also built something else, a documentation library. Resources for domestic workers, nannies, caregivers, anyone who knows they won't be believed without receipts. How to document conversations. How to store evidence safely. How to build a case that can't be dismissed. Professor Cole teaches a monthly workshop, how to make your evidence boring and unarguable. Because that's what wins in court. Not passion. Not tears. Just timestamps and facts. Jamie starts preschool next month. He's excited, a little nervous, ready. David's nervous too, but he's handling it. They picked out a backpack together, blue with dinosaurs. Last Tuesday, Jamie drew a picture in crayon. 3 stick figures, a tall one, a medium one, and a small one. He pointed at them. Daddy, Gigi me. We're a family. David and I locked eyes over Jamie's head. Not romantic. Not complicated. Just 2 people who fought like hell to protect a little boy who deserved better. And we won. Not because we were powerful. Not because we were rich. Not because the system worked the way it should. We won because we refused to be silent. Because we documented everything. Because we stood up even when standing up meant risking everything. So here's my question for you. When you see injustice dressed up in pearls and politeness, what do? When someone with power tries to silence someone without it, which side are you on? I know which side I'm on. I learned it from my mom, working 3 jobs. I learned it from Professor Cole, telling me to write everything down. I learned it from a scared little boy who just needed someone to see him instead of trying to fix him. I'm on the side of people who refuse to disappear. And I'm asking you to be there too. Share this story if it meant something to you. Comment if you've ever been in a room where your voice didn't matter, but you spoke anyway. Subscribe if you believe that regular people can change things when we stop accepting the way things are and start demanding the way things should be. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. Documentation is power. Your voice is power. Your refusal to stay quiet is power. Use it. And if you're someone who's been where I've been, working hard, dismissed, underestimated, told you don't belong in rooms you've earned your way into, I'm listening. Tell your story. I promise someone needs to hear it. We're stronger than they think. We always have been. Now let's prove it.